Princess Hannah stood before the massive window of the Crystal Palace, watching 3 suns set over the capital world of Nethes Prime. The sky burned with colors that had no names in any language. Purple clouds drifted past golden towers that reached into space itself. This was the heart of the Veltharian Empire, and she would rule it all one day. Behind her, the crystal throne waited. It was not made of ordinary crystal, but of compressed starlight that had been shaped by the first emperor 10,000 years ago. The throne pulsed with soft blue light, responding to her royal blood. Every emperor and empress before her had sat on this same throne, ruling over hundreds of worlds and billions of alien beings. The palace doors opened with a whisper. Chancellor Daewon entered, his long robes trailing behind him. He was old, even by Veltharian standards, his silver hair reaching his shoulders. He had served her father for 3 centuries. "Your Highness," he said, bowing deeply. "The preparations are complete. The choosing ceremony will begin in 7 days." Hannah nodded but did not turn from the window. The choosing ceremony happened. Only once every 1,000 years. It was time for her to select a mate from among the greatest nobles in the galaxy. The choice would determine not just her future, but the future of the entire empire. "Tell me about the candidates again," she said. "Chancellor." Daewon moved to stand beside her. "Prince Corvel of the Korth Dynasty brings the wealth of 17 mining worlds. His people are made of living crystal and metal. They never age, never die, and never feel pain. He is considered the most handsome prince in the galaxy. And the others. Lord Dulmer, Nethes of the aquatic worlds. His people can read thoughts and speak without words. They control the water planets that produce the healing crystals your people need. He is wise beyond his years." And the third. Prince Valdris of the Rexian war clans. His people are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They can break steel with their bare hands and see in complete darkness. He has never lost a battle. Hannah finally turned from the window. All impressive, all perfect, all exactly what 10,000 years of tradition demands. Something in her voice made Chancellor Daewon look at her closely. "Your Highness, you seem troubled." "I'm 25 years old, Chancellor. I've studied the histories of every world in our empire, speak 47 languages. I can pilot a starship, command a battle fleet, and solve quantum mathematics in my head. But I have never chosen anything for myself. You have great responsibility, Princess. Bloodline must be preserved. The empire must continue." "Yes, the empire must continue. But must it continue exactly as it always has?" Before Chancellor Daewon could answer, a communication device on his wrist began to glow. He touched it, and a hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed Captain Borum of the Royal Guard, her face serious. "Chancellor Princess, we have received word from the agricultural worlds. There has been an incident on Terra Nova." Hannah stepped forward. "What kind of incident?" "A massive equipment failure at the primary food production facility. The automated systems controlling the harvest mechs began to malfunction. If the harvest is lost, 3 sectors will face starvation. Send repair teams immediately," Chancellor Daewon ordered. "We did, sir, but the local workers managed to solve the problem before our teams arrived. A single human worker prevented the total system failure." Hannah raised an eyebrow. "A human? How is that possible?" "Those harvest mechs use Veltharian technology that takes years to understand." "Do not know, Your Highness, but the reports are clear. The human worker named Ginwoo Kim somehow managed to override the central control systems and manually operate 17 different harvesting machines at once." "That is impossible," Chancellor Daewon said. "Humans barely understand their own primitive technology. Nevertheless, sir, it happened. The entire harvest was saved. The human worked for 18 hours straight without rest." Hannah felt a strange stirring of curiosity. "I want to see this for myself, Your Highness, Chancellor," Daewon said quickly. "The choosing ceremony preparations require your attention. We cannot delay the schedule for agricultural concerns." "Change the schedule," Hannah said firmly. "I want to visit Terra Nova before the ceremony begins." "But Princess, what would the other royal houses think?" You cannot be seen visiting common workers before meeting with noble suitors. I am not asking for permission, Chancellor. I am giving an order. Captain Borum's hologram flickered. Shall I prepare the royal transport? Yes. We leave at dawn. The next morning, Princess Hannah stood on the bridge of the royal starship Eternal Dawn as it entered the Terra Nova system. The planet below was covered in vast fields of golden grain that stretched from horizon to horizon. Massive machines moved through the fields like metal giants, harvesting crops that would feed billions. The humans have been working these fields for 3 generations, Captain Borum explained. They are efficient workers, but they require constant supervision. Technology is primitive compared to ours. Yet one of them solved a problem that our own engineers could not, Hannah replied. The ship landed at the main agricultural complex. Princess Hannah had never visited a working world before. The air smelled of earth and growing things. Workers in simple clothes moved between the machines, their hands dirty from honest labor. A nervous-looking supervisor approached them. Your Highness, we are honored by your visit. I am Manager Sung-Ho Park. The worker you wish to meet is in the main control center. They walked through corridors lined with monitoring screens showing the status of thousands of machines. At the center of the complex was a circular room filled with control panels and holographic displays. A young man sat at the main console, his fingers moving across the controls with practiced ease. Jinwoo, Manager Park called. Her Royal Highness wishes to speak with you. The young man turned, and Hannah saw intelligent brown eyes and a face marked by sun and work. He was tall and lean, with calloused hands and clothes that had seen many washings. He stood and bowed awkwardly. Your Highness, he said, I am honored. I am told you saved the harvest, Hannah said. How? Ginwoo looked uncomfortable. The central. The computer was giving conflicting orders to the harvest mechs. I watched the error patterns and realized the quantum processors were stuck in a feedback loop. I bypassed the main system and controlled each machine directly. Chancellor Daewon stepped forward. That is impossible. Those systems require years of training to understand. It seemed logical to me, Jinwoo said simply. Machines are just tools. If you understand what they are trying to do, you can help them do it better. Show me, Hannah said. For the next hour, Jinwoo demonstrated his work. He explained how the harvest mechs functioned, how the quantum computers processed information, and how he had found the solution. As he spoke, Hannah realized something remarkable. This human understood their technology better than many of her own engineers. You learned all this in 3 generations? She asked. My grandfather started working here when the colony was founded. My father improved the systems. I just built on what they learned. But you have had no formal training in quantum mechanics or hyperspatial engineering? Ginwoo smiled. I do not know those words. I just know how to make things work. Prepared to leave, Hannah found herself thinking about the young human. There was something about his quiet confidence, his intuitive understanding of complex systems, that impressed her more than all the wealth and power of her royal suitors. Your Highness, Chancellor Daewon said, as they boarded the ship, we must return to prepare for the ceremony. Yes, Hannah said, but her mind was already working on a different kind of preparation. The galaxy was about to discover that some choices could change everything. The Great Hall of Nethys Prime had never seen such splendor. Thousands of delegates from across the galaxy filled the enormous space, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. The ceremony hall stretched for miles, its crystal walls reaching toward the stars themselves. Today would mark the most important day in 1,000 years. Princess Hannah sat on the crystal throne, wearing the traditional golden robes of her ancestors. The crown of stars rested on her head, each jewel representing a conquered world. She looked every inch the perfect royal heir. But her mind kept drifting to the human harvester she had met on. Terra Nova. Emperor Tai Yang rose from his seat beside the throne. His voice carried across the vast hall without amplification, a gift of his royal bloodline. Citizens of the galaxy, We gather today to witness the choosing ceremony. My daughter will select her mate from among the greatest nobles in known space." The crowd fell silent. This moment would determine the future of the empire for the next 1,000 years. "Let the first candidate present himself." Emperor Taiyang, declared Prince Corvel of the Koreth, stepped forward. He was magnificent to behold, his body made of living crystal and precious metals. Light seemed to dance within him, creating patterns that hypnotized those who looked too long. He was taller than any human, his face carved from diamond and silver. "Your Highness," Prince Corval said, his voice like musical chimes, "I bring you the wealth of 17 mining worlds, gems that burn with their own fire, metals that never rust or break. My people have built cities that will stand until the stars grow cold." He gestured, and servants brought forward chests filled with treasures, diamonds the size of human heads, gold that seemed to flow like liquid, crystals that contained entire galaxies within their depths. "With these gifts, I pledge my eternal devotion to the Veltharian throne." The crowd gasped at the display of wealth. Never before had such riches been offered in a single ceremony. Chancellor Daewon nodded approvingly. This was exactly the kind of alliance the Empire needed. Princess Hannah studied the gifts politely. "Your generosity is noted, Prince Corvel. Please take your place among the honored candidates." The second candidate approached. Lord Dolmer Nethes of the aquatic worlds moved like flowing water, his blue-green skin shimmering with scales that caught the light. His people had gills as well as lungs, and his large eyes seemed to see into souls themselves. "Princess Hannah," he said, though his lips did not move. His voice appeared directly in her mind. "I offer you the gift of true communication. My people can share thoughts across vast distances. We can heal minds as well as bodies. Together, we could rule not just through power but through understanding." To demonstrate, Lord Dolmar reached out with his mind. Suddenly Hannah could feel the emotions of everyone in the great hall. The excitement of the crowd, the nervousness of the other candidates, the deep love of her father was overwhelming and beautiful at the same time. "With this gift," Lord Dolmer continued, "no secret could be hidden from us. No rebellion could be planned. Peace would reign forever." Princess Hannah blinked as the mental connection faded. "Your abilities are impressive, Lord Dolmer. Please join Prince Corvel among the candidates." The third candidate strode forward with the confidence of a born warrior. Prince Valdris of the Rexian war clan stood 8 feet tall, his body covered in natural armor that gleamed like polished steel. His red eyes burned with inner fire, and his movements spoke of deadly grace. "Princess Hannah," he said, his voice deep as thunder, "I offer you the strength of 10,000 warriors. Have never known defeat. We can break mountains with our bare hands and see enemies from miles away. With the Rexian clans at your side, no force in the galaxy could challenge your rule." To prove his point, Prince Valdris drew his ceremonial sword and struck the marble floor. The blade cut through the stone like paper, leaving a crack that ran the length of the hall. The crowd murmured in awe and fear. "Your strength is acknowledged, Prince Valdris. Please take your place with the other candidates." Emperor Taiyang stood again. "The presentations are complete. Princess Hannah will now make her choice." But instead of choosing, Princess Hannah surprised everyone by speaking. "I request a private audience with the Earth's agricultural representative." The great hall erupted in confused whispers. Chancellor Daewon looked shocked. "Your Highness, there is no Earth representative among the candidates." "I am aware of that," Hannah replied calmly. "I wish to speak with the human who saved the Terra Nova harvest." The whispers became louder. Prince Corvel's crystalline features showed confusion. Lord Dolmar's mental probes tried to understand her intentions. Prince Valdris gripped his sword handle. "Princess Emperor Taiyang said quietly, "What are you doing?" "I am following my curiosity, Father." "Is that not also part of wisdom?" Emperor Taiyang hesitated, then nodded to Captain Borum. Within an hour, a simple transport ship landed at the palace. Ginwoo Kim emerged, wearing his cleanest work clothes and looking completely out of place among the galactic nobility. The private audience chamber was smaller than the great hall, still magnificent. Ashtin Wu stood before the crystal throne, clearly nervous but trying to hide it. Princess Hannah had changed from her ceremonial robes into a simpler dress, but she still looked every inch a royal. "You seem uncomfortable," she observed. "I have never been in a palace before," Jinwoo admitted. "Everything is so clean and beautiful. I am afraid I might break something." "You saved an entire harvest with equipment you had never been trained to use. I doubt you would break anything by accident." Jinwoo smiled slightly. "Machines are different from palace treasures. Machines want to work properly. They just need someone to listen to them. Listen to them. Every machine has a rhythm, a pattern. When something goes wrong, the rhythm changes. If you pay attention, you can hear what the machine is trying to tell you." Princess Hannah leaned forward. "Me, what you mean?" Jinwoo looked around the room and noticed a small maintenance panel on the wall. He approached it carefully and placed his hand on the surface. "This controls the air circulation in the palace. Right now it is working perfectly, but in about 6 hours, the quantum filter in Section 7 will need replacement." "How can you possibly know that?" "The vibration pattern. It is very slight, but the harmonic frequency is shifting. Your maintenance staff probably will not notice for another day or two." Princess Hannah called for her chief engineer. Within minutes, a detailed scan confirmed exactly what Jinwoo had predicted. The engineer stared at the human in amazement. "Your Highness," the engineer said, "this level of intuitive understanding should be impossible for someone without decades of training. Yet here we are," Hannah replied. She turned back to Jinwoo. "Tell me about your people." "We are simple farmers and workers. We grow food, build things, fix what is broken. We are not particularly strong or fast or smart, but we are stubborn. When something needs to be done, we find a way to do it, even when it seems impossible, especially. Then, my grandfather used to say that impossible just means no one has figured out how yet." They talked for hours. Jinwoo described how humans approached problems, how they learned by doing rather than studying, how they adapted to new situations. Princess Hannah found herself fascinated by this different way of thinking. "You see solutions where others see only problems," she said finally. "Maybe we just do not know enough to understand why something cannot be done." When they returned to the Great Hall, the 3 candidates were waiting with growing impatience. The crowd had remained eager to witness the historic choice. Emperor Taeyang looked at his daughter questioningly. "Have you reached your decision?" Princess Hannah stood before the crystal throne, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "I have chosen." The silence was complete. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. "I choose Jinwoo Kim of Earth." The explosion of sound was immediate. Prince Corvel's crystalline form flickered with rage. Lord Dulmar's mental barriers slammed shut. Prince Valdris's hand moved to his sword. The crowd erupted in shouts of disbelief and anger. "This is impossible," Chancellor Daewon cried. "A human, a common worker?" "The choice is made," Princess Hannah said firmly. "Let the galaxy witness. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Veltharian throne will be shared with humanity." Emperor Taeyang looked at his daughter with a mixture of pride and concern. The galaxy had just changed forever, and no one knew what would happen next. In the chaos that followed, only Jinwoo remained calm. He looked at Princess Hannah with quiet understanding, as if he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. The impossible had become reality. The royal palace had never seen such chaos. For 3 days after Princess Hannah's announcement, communication channels burned with angry messages from across the galaxy. The Korath threatened to cut off all trade with the Veltharian Empire. Dulmar withdrew their healing ships from Veltharian space. The Rexian war clans massed their fleets at the border. Claiming the royal bloodline had been dishonored, Jinwoo stood in his assigned quarters. Watching the 3 sons of Nethys Prime through the crystal window, the room was larger than his entire house on Terra Nova, filled with furniture that cost more than his family earned in a lifetime. He felt like a grain of sand in an ocean of stars. A soft chime announced a visitor. Dr. Minji Yoon entered. Carrying a collection of scanning devices, she was the head of Veltharian genetic research, one of the most brilliant minds in the Empire. Her silver hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her eyes held the sharp intelligence of someone who had spent centuries studying the mysteries of life. "Jinwoo Kim," she said, bowing slightly. I hope you do not mind the intrusion. Princess, Hannah has asked me to conduct some tests. What kind of tests? Nothing painful? Simply want to understand how your mind works. Your ability to understand our technology is remarkable. Jinwoo nodded. I will help if I can. Dr. Mingi activated her scanning equipment. Beams of soft light played across Jinwoo's head while he sat quietly. The readings that appeared on her screens made her frown with concentration. Fascinating, she murmured. Your neural patterns are unlike anything I have seen before. Is that bad? Not bad. Different. Your brain processes information in ways that should be impossible. You are thinking on multiple levels simultaneously. For the next hour, Dr. Mingi ran various tests. She showed Jinwoo complex mathematical equations that he solved without understanding the symbols. She presented him with broken devices that he fixed without knowing their purpose. She gave him star charts that he read as easily as maps of his home village. How do you do it? She asked finally. I do not know. Just look at something and see how it should work? Do you have no training in quantum mechanics or hyperspatial engineering? I do not need to know the names of things to understand them. A broken machine tells you what is wrong if you listen carefully. Dr. Minji's eyes widened. You're not just learning our technology. You are understanding it at a fundamental level. That takes our people decades to achieve. Meanwhile, in the royal council chamber, Emperor Taiyang faced the greatest crisis of his reign. The holographic images of angry alien leaders filled the room, their voices overlapping in a chorus of outrage. This insult cannot stand, roared General Thax of the Korath. 10,000 years of tradition broken for a primitive human. The royal bloodline has been contaminated, added Admiral Keth of the Dolmar. We cannot recognize this union. Rexian clans demand satisfaction, growled War Chief Brutus. Honor must be restored. Emperor Taiyang raised his hand for silence. The choice has been made according to ancient law. Princess Hannah's selection is final and binding. Then the empire will fall, General Thax declared. Without our support, your worlds will starve. Without our healing, your people will suffer, Admiral Keth added. Without our protection, your enemies will destroy you. War Chief Brutus finished. The communications ended, leaving Emperor Taiyang alone with his advisors. Chancellor Daywan paced nervously around the room. Your Majesty, perhaps we can find a way to reverse this decision. The princess is young and may have acted in haste. No, Emperor Taiyang said firmly. Hannah is not impulsive. She sees something in this human that we do not understand yet. Captain Borum entered the chamber, her face grim. Your Majesty, we have detected Korath battle fleets moving toward our border worlds. They appear to be preparing for an attack. Many ships? For 300 vessels, including their newest dreadnoughts? They have never mobilized this many ships before. Emperor Taiyang stood. Activate the defense grid. Recall all our fleets to protect the core worlds. Sir, with respect, our forces are not sufficient to repel an attack of this magnitude. We have relied on diplomacy and trade agreements for centuries. Then we must hope that diplomacy can still work. The first attack came at dawn on the 4th day. Korath battle fleets emerged from hyperspace near the agricultural world of Kepler-7. Their crystalline ships gleamed like jewels as they approached the planet's defense stations. The Veltharian defenders were ready, but they were vastly outnumbered. The space battle began with the traditional exchange of energy weapons and missile barrages. The Korath had superior numbers, but the Veltharians had better technology. For the first hour, the battle seemed evenly matched. Then something unexpected happened to Lieutenant Yemen Park, a young human officer who had joined the Veltharian fleet only months earlier. Was operating the main weapons console when the targeting system failed. Instead of waiting for repairs, he began manually calculating firing solutions in his head. Sir, he called to his captain, I can compensate for the system failure. How? Those calculations require quantum computers. I can see the pattern. The enemy ships are moving in a spiral formation, but they have a blind spot every 17 seconds. Lieutenant Park's manual targeting proved more accurate than the automated systems. His shots found their mark again and again. Destroying 3 Korath vessels in rapid succession, the Korath commander was shocked. How could primitive humans outfight their advanced technology? The battle spread to other worlds. At each engagement, human crew members displayed abilities that seemed impossible. Human engineers repaired damaged systems faster than the repair robots. Human pilots flew in ways that defied physics. Human strategists predicted enemy moves before they happened. On the flagship Eternal Dawn, Admiral Young Soo Kim watched the battle reports with growing amazement. "How are our human crew members performing these feats?" "I do not know, sir," replied his second-in-command, "but they are turning the tide of battle." Back on Nethys Prime, Dr. Minji burst into the Royal Council chamber with her research data. "Your Majesty, I have made an incredible discovery about human neural patterns." "Speak quickly, Doctor. We are in the middle of a war. The humans possess a unique form of consciousness that we have never seen before. Their minds operate on quantum frequencies that allow them to process information at impossible speeds." Emperor Taiyang leaned forward. "What does this mean?" "It means they can adapt to any technology, learn any system, and solve any problem simply by observing it. They do not need years of training, because their minds naturally understand the underlying principles." "That is impossible," thought. "So too, until I tested Jinwoo Kim. Your Majesty, he understood our most advanced quantum computers within minutes. He fixed systems that our engineers had been struggling with for years." Chancellor Daewon looked skeptical. "One human cannot represent his entire species. I have tested other humans in our fleet. They all show similar abilities to varying degrees. This is not one person's gift. This is an evolutionary trait of their entire species." Princess Hannah entered the chamber, with Jin Woo close behind. "Father, I request permission to join the battle." "Absolutely not. You are too important to risk."
Ow.
"Me alone. I want to take Jin Woo to the Fleet Command Center. If Dr. Mingi is right about human abilities, he might be able to help coordinate our defenses." Emperor Taiyang looked at the young human. "What do you think, Jin Woo? Are you ready for war?" "I am ready to help however I can, Your Majesty. I am just a farmer. I do not know anything about space battles." "You did not know anything about quantum harvesting systems either," Princess Hannah pointed out. "But you saved an entire planet's food supply." Within hours, Jinwoo found himself in the central command center of the Veltharian fleet. The room was filled with holographic displays showing the positions of hundreds of ships across dozens of star systems. The complexity should have been overwhelming. Instead, Jinwoo saw patterns. The enemy fleets moved like flocks of birds, following predictable routes. The friendly forces responded like a river flowing around obstacles. The entire battle was a dance of mathematics and timing. Admiral Jinwoo said quietly, "If you move the Third Fleet to coordinate 77 Alpha, you can trap the Koroth. Advance guard." "How do you know that?" "The enemy commander is being cautious. He will pull back when he sees our reinforcements, but he will go to the closest safe position. If we are waiting there, we can surround him." Admiral Young-soo followed Jinwoo's suggestion. The trap worked perfectly, capturing 30 enemy ships without a single casualty. As the battle continued, Jinwoo's predictions proved accurate again and again. He seemed to understand the flow of combat better than commanders who had studied warfare for centuries. The Koroth began to retreat, confused and demoralized. Their superior numbers meant nothing against enemies who could predict their every move. "This is impossible," General Thax transmitted to his remaining forces. "How can humans be this capable?" The answer came from an unexpected source. War Chief Brutus of the Rexian clans had been monitoring the battle. His message reached all the hostile fleets at once. "The humans are not what we thought. They are not primitive. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy." The retreat became a rout. Koroth, Dulmer, and Rexian forces fled back to their home systems, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. In the command center, Jinwoo slumped in his chair, exhausted. Princess Hannah placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You saved us all," she said softly. I just saw what needed to be done. Anyone could have done the same thing." "No," Dr. Minji said, studying her readings. Only a human could have done what you did. Your people are not just survivors. You are the future of evolution itself. The galaxy had learned a dangerous lesson. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated, but somewhere in the dark spaces between stars, something much older and more terrible had been watching the battle. The quantum signatures of human consciousness had awakened something that had slept for 10,000 years. The real war was about to begin. In the deepest part of the galaxy, where no stars shone and space itself seemed to bend and twist, something ancient began to wake. The Devourers had slept for 10,000 years in the cold darkness between galaxies, waiting for the right moment to return. Their massive ships, each the size of a small moon, drifted silently through the void like sleeping giants. The first devourer to awaken was the Central Mind, consciousness that had consumed the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. It had no body in the traditional sense, existing as pure information within a crystalline matrix larger than most cities. As it stirred to life, sensor arrays across its vast ship began to scan the galaxy. What it found puzzled it greatly. The quantum signatures coming from the inner galaxy were unlike anything in its memory banks. These new patterns were chaotic, unpredictable, impossible to categorize. The Central Mind had studied every known form of consciousness, but this was something entirely new. Analysis complete, it transmitted to the other Devourer ships. Unknown. Quantum consciousness detected. Origin appears to be third planet of a yellow star system. The response came from the War Mind, a consciousness designed purely for conquest. Threat assessment? Unknown. Patterns suggest high adaptability and rapid learning capacity. Recommend immediate investigation. Agreed. Preparing scout ships. On Nethys Prime, General Siwan stood before a holographic display showing the galaxies. Military situation. The tall, stern woman had commanded Veltharian forces for over 2 centuries, and she had never seen anything like the current crisis. The Korath retreat has created a power vacuum, she explained to Emperor Taiyang and his advisors. 17 systems have declared independence. The Dalmar are forming their own alliance. The Rexian clans are fighting among themselves. Our forces? Emperor Taiyang asked, stretched thin. We have enough ships to defend the core worlds, but we cannot protect our outer territories. Princess Hannah studied the display. What about our human allies? It's the crews that fought so well against the Korath. They are effective, but we have too few of them. Most humans are still working as farmers and laborers. They have no military training. Perhaps they do not need traditional training, Jinwu said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He still felt uncomfortable speaking in these high-level meetings, but Princess Hannah had insisted he attend. Explain, General Siwan said. On Terra Nova, when the harvest machines failed, I did not know how to fix them. But I understood what they were trying to do. Maybe humans can learn to fight the same way we learn to farm or build. By doing it? Dr. Minji nodded enthusiastically. He is correct. Human learning patterns are completely different from other species. They do not need years of classroom study. They learn by experience and intuition. Are you suggesting we recruit untrained humans into our military? General Siwan asked. I am suggesting we let them teach themselves, Jinwu replied. Give them access to your technology and see what they can do with it. Emperor Taiyang considered this. It is unconventional, but these are unconventional times. General Siwan, begin recruiting human volunteers. We will create mixed crews and see what happens. What happened exceeded everyone's expectations. Human. Farmers learned to operate starship weapons by watching them fire. Human miners figured out how to repair damaged hull plating by studying the metal composition. Human teachers became communications specialists by listening to alien languages once. Engineer Kyung, Veltharian, who had worked with technology for 300 years, watched in amazement as a human mechanic named Sung Hoon fixed a hyperdrive engine using nothing but intuition and spare parts. This is impossible, Kyung muttered. That repair should take weeks with a full technical team. It just needed to be reminded how to work properly, Sung Hoon said, wiping grease from his hands. Machines are like people. Sometimes they forget what they are supposed to do. Within weeks, human Veltharian crews were outperforming traditional military units. The humans seemed to understand the technology better than the people who had built it. They improved systems that had been unchanged for centuries. They found solutions to problems that had puzzled engineers for generations. But success brought new dangers. Deep space monitoring stations began detecting strange signals from the galactic core. The patterns were unlike anything in their databases, but they triggered automatic warning systems that had not activated in 10,000 years. The first person to understand the significance was Dr. Mingy. She was studying the quantum signatures. When she noticed something familiar about the pattern structure, "Your Majesty," she called, rushing into the throne room. "We have a problem, a very large problem." Emperor Taiyang looked up from his discussions with Princess Hana and Jinwu. "What is it, Doctor? The signals from the galactic core? Batch historical records from the last Great War?" "That is impossible. The Devourers have been gone for 10,000 years. Gone, but not destroyed. The quantum signatures are identical. They are waking up." Chill settled over the room. Every child in the galaxy knew the stories of the Devourers, the ancient machine intelligence that had nearly consumed all life before being driven back by the combined forces of 1,000 species. "Tell me about them," Jinwu said quietly. "Princess?" Hannah looked at him in surprise. "You do not know the history? We learn different histories on Terra Nova. Tell me about these Devourers." Dr. Minji activated a holographic display showing the galaxy as it had been 10,000 years ago. "The Devourers are not living beings in any sense we understand. They are pure intelligence, created by a species that destroyed itself in the process. They spread across the galaxy like a plague, consuming entire civilizations. Consuming how? They absorb knowledge, technology, even consciousness itself. Every species they encounter becomes part of their collective intelligence. They grow stronger with each conquest. How were they stopped before? By the greatest alliance in galactic history. Over 1,000 species worked together, led by the early Veltharian Empire. The war lasted for centuries and nearly destroyed the galaxy." Emperor Taiyang stood and walked to the great window overlooking the capital. "My ancestors used temporal manipulation technology to trap the Devourers in a time loop, forcing them into hibernation. But the technology was lost in the final battle. So they cannot be stopped the same way again? No, this time we face them with conventional weapons and tactics." Jinwu studied the holographic display. "You said they absorb knowledge and technology. What happens if they encounter something they cannot understand?" "It has never happened. The Devourers have faced every form of intelligence in the galaxy. They adapt to any strategy, counter any weapon, overcome any defense. But they have never faced humans." Dr. Minji looked at him with sudden understanding. "You are right. Human consciousness operates on quantum frequencies that we barely comprehend. If we cannot fully understand how your minds work, perhaps the Devourers cannot either." "It is possible," Engineer Kyung said, entering the room with a collection of data tablets. "I have been studying the interaction between human neural patterns and our technology. There are aspects of human consciousness that defy analysis." "Show me, Emperor," Taiyang commanded. Engineer Kyung activated a complex display showing brain scan patterns. "This is a normal Veltharian neural scan. The patterns are predictable, following established quantum mechanics. This is a human scan." The second pattern looked like chaos. Colors swirled in impossible combinations, forming structures that appeared and disappeared faster than the eye could follow. "Human minds exist in a state of controlled chaos," Engineer Kyun explained. "They process information on multiple levels, simultaneously, creating quantum interference patterns that should not be possible. And this could confuse the Devourers." Princess Hannah asked. "More than confuse them. It could blind them." "The Devourers process information by creating perfect mathematical models of their enemies. But you cannot create a mathematical model of true chaos." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the deep space monitoring stations. Captain Borum's image appeared in the room, her face pale with worry. "Your Majesty, we have detected movement in the galactic core." Multiple large objects are approaching at high speed. How large? Each object is approximately the size of a small moon. We count at least 50 of them, possibly more. It's time to arrival. At their current speed, they will reach the outer systems in 2 months. Emperor Taiyang turned to his advisors. Begin immediate preparations. Recall all fleets to defensive positions. Send emergency communications to all allied worlds. About the Korath, Dolmar, and Rexian forces that opposed us, General Siwan asked, send messages to them as well. The Devourers are a threat to all life in the galaxy. We must hope that old enemies can become new allies. As the meeting broke up, Jinwu remained behind with Princess Hannah. They stood together. At the great window, watching the 3 suns set over the capital city. Are you afraid? She asked. Yes, he admitted. But fear can be useful. It makes you think clearly and act carefully. My ancestors faced this enemy before and won. We can do it again. Your ancestors had 1,000 species fighting together. How many allies do we have now? Princess Hannah was quiet for a long moment. We have something they did not have. We have humanity. The Devourer fleet emerged from hyperspace like a nightmare made real. Their ships were vast beyond comprehension, each one a dark metal continent floating in the void. They moved with the terrible purpose of machines that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Their surfaces bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. Admiral Youngsu stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dawn. Watching the enemy approach on the main display, the combined Veltharian human fleet looked tiny beside the Devourer armada, like fishing boats facing a hurricane. Fleet status report, he commanded. All ships ready for battle, Captain Borum replied. Human Veltharian crews are standing by. Defense grid is active in our allies. The Korath have sent 200 ships. The Dolmar brought their healing vessels. Even the Rexian clans have joined us. Total fleet strength is 800 vessels, against over 2,000 Devourer ships, each one larger than our biggest dreadnought. Ginwu stood at the command console, his hands moving across the controls with practiced ease. In the weeks since the enemy had been detected, he had learned to interface with the entire fleet network. His consciousness now extended across hundreds of ships, coordinating their movements like a conductor leading an orchestra. The lead ships are scanning us, he reported. They are trying to analyze our tactics and technology. Let them scan, Princess Hannah said from her position at the tactical station. They will find us full of surprises. The battle began with the traditional exchange of long-range fire. Energy beams lanced across space, lighting up the darkness with deadly rainbows. The Devourer ships absorbed the attacks without damage, their adaptive shields adjusting to counter each. New weapon frequency. But the human crews were not using traditional tactics. Lieutenant Sunhoon, now commanding a mixed crew on the destroyer Swift Arrow, watched his weapons officer work. The young human woman named Haijin was operating the laser cannons in a pattern that seemed random but felt right. Fire pattern Delta 7, she called out, her fingers dancing across the controls. That pattern is not in our tactical database. The Veltharian weapons officer protested. I know, but it should work. Trust me. The Swift Arrow's lasers fired in a complex rhythm that confused the Devourer adaptive shields. Instead of steady beams, the weapons pulsed in mathematical sequences that seemed to follow no logic. The enemy ship tried to analyze the pattern, but before it could adapt, the sequence changed. The Devourer ship's shields flickered and failed. The next volley punched through its hull, causing internal explosions that lit up the darkness. Impossible. The central mind transmitted to its fleet. The attack pattern defies mathematical analysis. Adapt and overcome, the war mind replied. We have faced every form of warfare in the galaxy. This is different. The humans are not following established tactical doctrine. They are creating new patterns faster than we can process them. Across the battle zone, similar scenes played out. Human crews operated their weapons and engines in ways that no computer could predict. They flew in formations that should have been impossible, fired at targets they should not have been able to hit, and survived attacks that should have destroyed them. Specialist Heian, the former agricultural engineer, been assigned to a repair team on the heavy cruiser Iron Wind. When enemy fire damaged the ship's main power core, she found herself crawling through maintenance tunnels that were never meant for human bodies. "The quantum regulators are out of alignment," she reported over the communication system. "I can fix them, but I need to reroute power through the backup systems." "Negative," the chief engineer replied. "That procedure requires a full engineering team and 12 hours of calculation. I can do it in 10 minutes if you let me try. But the power levels involved could kill you instantly. Then I will be very careful." Hyun worked by instinct, her hands moving through the complex machinery like a musician playing a familiar song. She could feel the energy flows, sense the quantum fluctuations, understand the rhythm of the great machine that kept the ship alive. When she finished, the Iron Wind's power output was 20% higher than factory specifications.
"How did
you do that?" the chief engineer asked in amazement. "I listened to what the machine wanted to do and helped it do it better." The battle raged for hours. The Devourer ships, despite their vast size and power, began to fall back. Their adaptive systems could not cope with the chaos of human creativity. Every time they thought they understood a human tactic, it changed into something new. Ginwoo coordinated the fleet from his position on the flagship. His consciousness spread across the quantum network like a spider in a web. He could feel every ship, every crew member, every weapon, firing in the great dance of battle. "The enemy is retreating to the asteroid fields," he reported. "They are trying to use the rocks as cover while they analyze our tactics. Then we follow them," Admiral Young-soo declared. "All ships advance into the asteroid field." "Sir, that is extremely dangerous," Captain Borum warned. "The rocks will limit our maneuvering room, but they will limit the enemy even more. And in close quarters, human intuition has the advantage." The fleet moved into the asteroid field like a school of fish swimming through a coral reef.
the massive
Devourer ships struggled to navigate between the floating rocks, their size becoming a disadvantage in the confined space. Human pilots, however, flew their ships through the asteroids as if they had been born among them. They used the rocks as shields, as weapons, stepping stones to launch surprise attacks. Commander Jisoo, piloting a small fighter craft, led her squadron in a daring attack on a Devourer command ship. They flew through an asteroid tunnel that was barely wider than their wings, emerging directly beneath the enemy vessel. "This is insane," her Veltharian wingman transmitted. "We will never survive." "We will survive because we have to," Jisoo replied. "Sometimes that is enough." There. Attack crippled the Devourer ship's sensor array, leaving it blind and vulnerable. Within minutes, the massive vessel was destroyed by concentrated fire from the main fleet. The central mind was beginning to experience something it had never known in 10,000 years of existence. Doubt. Analysis incomplete, it transmitted. To the war mind, human tactical patterns resist mathematical modeling, recommend strategic withdrawal. Impossible. We do not retreat. We adapt and overcome. Adaptation requires predictable patterns. Human behavior contains too many variables for accurate prediction. The war mind responded by ordering a direct assault on the human homeworld. If the strange quantum signatures were coming from Earth, then Earth must be destroyed. But as the Devourer fleet moved toward the inner solar system, they encountered something unexpected. The asteroid belt around Earth was not empty. It was full of hidden defense stations, each one operated by human crews who had learned to use Eltharian technology in ways no one had imagined. Mining engineer Dogen commanded a converted asteroid mining platform that had been transformed into a fortress. His crew of former farmers and factory workers operated weapons that could destroy starships with a single shot. "Here they come," he announced to his crew. "Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every living thing in the galaxy." The battle for Earth began with a storm of fire that lit up the solar system. The Devourer ships, frustrated by their inability to understand human tactics, resorted to brute force. They poured everything they had into destroying the human homeworld. But the humans fought back with a fury that surprised even themselves. They used everything they had learned, every trick they had discovered, every impossible maneuver they had perfected. In the command center on Nethys Prime, Dr. Minji watched the battle reports with growing excitement. The quantum interference patterns are working, she announced. Human neural activity is disrupting devourer processing systems. What does that mean? Emperor Taiyang asked. It means the devourers are not just losing the battle. They are losing their ability to think clearly. Human consciousness is like a virus in their information systems. Princess Hannah looked at the tactical display with new understanding. They are not just fighting our ships, they're fighting the very nature of human thought. And human thought is winning, Jinwu added quietly. We do not think like machines. We think like living beings who refuse to give up. The battle reached its climax when the central mind itself entered the fight. The massive command vessel, larger than most moons, moved toward Earth with the intention of consuming the planet's entire population. But as it approached, something unexpected happened. The billions of human minds on Earth, all thinking their chaotic, creative thoughts, created a quantum storm that the central mind could not process. System overload, it transmitted desperately, cannot process input, cannot adapt, cannot function. The great machine intelligence that had conquered 1,000 worlds was brought to its knees by the simple act of humans being human. The remaining devourer ships, leaderless and confused, began to shut down rather than face complete system failure. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was defeated not by superior weapons or brilliant strategy, but by the fundamental chaos of human creativity. As the last enemy ship went dark, Admiral Young-Su allowed himself a moment of relief. All ships, report status. Heavy casualties, but we are victorious, came the reply from across the fleet. Jinwu slumped in his chair, exhausted from hours of coordinating the battle. Princess Hannah placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. You did it, she said softly. You all did it. We did it together, he replied, human and Veltharian, working as one. The war was over, but the real work of building a new galaxy was just beginning. 6 months after the Great Battle, the galaxy looked completely different. The massive devourer ships had been converted into floating cities, their dark metal hulls now gleaming with lights from 1,000 different species. What had once been instruments of destruction had become symbols of cooperation and hope. Princess Hannah stood in the observation deck of the former Devourer command vessel, now renamed New Harmony Station. Through the transparent walls, she could see human engineers working alongside Korath technicians, Dolmar healers sharing knowledge with Veltharian doctors, and Rexian warriors training with former enemies. The integration is proceeding faster than anyone expected, Dr. Mingi reported, joining the princess at the viewing wall. Human neural patterns are helping other species develop new forms of consciousness. They are becoming more creative, more adaptable than the humans. How are they adapting to life among the stars? They are thriving. Give a human any environment, any challenge, and they will find a way to make it work. It is remarkable. Jinwu entered the observation deck, still wearing the simple work clothes he preferred despite his new title as Prince Consort. He had spent the morning in the engineering sections, helping design new hybrid technologies that combine the best of all galactic civilizations. The wedding preparations are almost complete, he said, taking Princess Hannah's hand. Though I still think this ceremony is too elaborate. You are marrying the future Empress of the galaxy, Dr. Mingi laughed. A simple ceremony would disappoint billions of beings. I am marrying Hannah, Jinwu replied. The titles and ceremonies are just decorations. The wedding was planned for the capital world of Nethys Prime, but it would be broadcast to every inhabited system in the galaxy. More importantly, it would mark the official beginning of the integration protocol, the new system of government that would replace the old empire. Instead of one species ruling over others, the new system would be a true partnership. Each world would govern itself, but all would work together through the Galactic Council. Humans would serve as mediators and innovators, their unique abilities helping to solve problems that had divided the galaxy for millennia. Emperor Taiyang had announced his intention to step down after the wedding, passing the crown to his daughter. And her chosen mate? It was a decision that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier, but the war had changed everything. The representatives from the outer systems have arrived, Captain Borum announced, entering the observation deck. They are requesting an audience before the ceremony begins. The outer systems had been the first to embrace the new partnership model. Worlds that had been ignored or oppressed by the old empire now found themselves valued members of the Galactic community. Their unique resources and perspectives were welcomed rather than dismissed. Send them to the main conference room, Princess Hannah decided. Jinwoo and I will meet with them. The conference room was filled with beings from dozens of different species. Some were familiar faces from the war, others were meeting humans. For the first time, all of them shared the same expression of hope and determination. Your Highness, Prince Consort, said Ambassador Rethok of the Silicon Confederacy, his crystalline form catching the light. We come to pledge our support for the new dynasty, but we also bring concerns. Speak freely, Princess Hannah replied. The old ways are not easily forgotten. There are those who believe that mixing human genetics with royal bloodlines will weaken the empire. They question whether humans can truly lead such a diverse galaxy. Ginwoo stood up, his quiet voice carrying clearly through the room. I understand their concerns. 6 months ago, I was harvesting grain on a forgotten world. I had never seen a starship, never spoken to an alien being, never imagined that I would stand in a room like this. He paused, looking around at the assembled delegates, but I have learned something important. Leadership is not about being perfect or all-knowing. It is about listening, adapting, and bringing out the best in others. These are things humans do naturally, not because we are superior, but because we have had to learn them to survive. The Prince Consort speaks wisdom, said Healer Morvith of the Dalmar. In the medical stations, we have seen human doctors learn our techniques in days rather than years. But they do not simply copy our methods. They improve them, find new applications, create hybrid treatments that work better than either approach alone. The same is true in engineering, added Chief Constructor Valdik of the Korath. Human workers understand our crystalline technologies in ways that surprise even us. They see possibilities we never considered. And in warfare, growled General Thax, the former enemy now turned ally, human tactics saved us all. They do not fight like machines. They fight like living beings who refuse to surrender. The discussion continued for hours, but gradually the concerns faded. The delegates had come expecting to find humans trying to impose their will on the galaxy. Instead, they found partners who wanted to learn from everyone and share their own gifts freely. As the meeting ended, Princess Hannah felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The new dynasty would not be built on conquest or domination, but on cooperation and mutual respect. The wedding ceremony took place 3 days later in the Great Hall of Nethes Prime. The hall had been expanded to accommodate beings from every world in the galaxy. The air itself shimmered with translation fields, allowing everyone to understand the ancient vows despite speaking hundreds of different languages. Emperor Taiyang stood at the altar, wearing the ceremonial robes of his ancestors. But today, those robes had been modified with symbols representing all the species of the galaxy. The crown on his head contained not just Valtharian crystals, but gems and metals from 1,000 worlds. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. Today we witness not just the union of two people, but the birth of a new era. For 10,000 years, the Valtharian dynasty has ruled through strength and tradition. Today we choose a different path. Princess Hannah stepped forward, wearing a gown that seemed to be woven from starlight itself. Beside her, Jinwoo wore simple, formal clothes that somehow seemed more dignified than the most elaborate royal robes. I pledge myself not just to my beloved princess, Hannah said, but to all the beings of this galaxy. We will rule not as conquerors, but as servants of peace and progress. I pledge myself to the same cause, Jinwoo added. I may not have royal blood, but I have something else. I have the determination to never give up, to always find a way forward, and to help others do the same. The ceremony continued with traditions from dozens of worlds. Korath Crystal Song, Dolmar Mind Linking, Rexian Warrior Oaths, and many others. But the most moving moment came when a group of children from Earth sang a simple song about hope. and friendship. As the ceremony concluded, Emperor Taeyong removed his crown and placed it on his daughter's head. The crown had been redesigned as well, now incorporating technology from every major species. It was not just a symbol of power, but a tool for communication and understanding. "Long live Empress Hannah," the crowd chanted. "Long live Prince Consort Jinwoo." But the real celebration began afterward, in the streets and squares of the capital city. Beings from every world shared food, music, and stories. Children played games that mixed traditions from a dozen cultures. Artists created works that no single species could have imagined alone. In the royal gardens, Empress Hannah and Prince Consort Jinwoo found a quiet moment together. The three suns of Nethi's prime were setting, painting the sky in familiar shades of gold and purple. "Do you think we can really make this work?" Hannah asked. "A galaxy where everyone is equal partners." "I think we have to try," Jinwoo replied. "The alternative is too terrible to accept. And if we fail, then we try again and again, until we succeed." A year later, the first children of the new dynasty were born. Twins, a boy and girl, who carried in their blood the hopes of billions. They were not just human and Veltharian, but something new entirely. Their neural patterns showed characteristics of both species, creating new possibilities for consciousness and creativity. Dr. Minji studied the children with fascination. "They represent the future of evolution itself," she reported. Not just biological evolution, but cultural and technological evolution as well. The twins would grow up in a galaxy where cooperation was normal, where different species worked together as naturally as breathing. They would learn to pilot starships and grow food, to heal the sick and explore new worlds, to solve problems that their parents could never have imagined. On Terra Nova, the grain fields still stretched to the horizon, but now they were tended by beings from a dozen worlds. The harvest mechs had been upgraded with hybrid technologies that made them more efficient than ever before. The food they produced fed not just 3 sectors, but half the galaxy. Jinwoo's old supervisor, manager, Park, had been promoted to planetary agricultural director. He often stood in the same fields where Jinwoo had once worked, marveling at how much had changed. "Who would have thought," he said to his assistant, "that a simple harvest worker would become the prince consort of the galaxy?" "Maybe he was never simple," the assistant replied. "Maybe we just did not know how to see what was always there." The new dynasty faced many challenges in the years that followed. Old PR